Now then, guys, welcome back to the Cycles Sunday podcast. Mr. Bowker, how is Edinburgh today?
Edinburgh is lovely. It's warm.
Warm?
Peter,
Actually,
it's warm.
It's never warm in Edinburgh. It must be raining and warm.
No, it's warm. It was really sunny, and it's absolutely great. Although I might have a bit of a problem.
Go on then.
Well, we're recording this on Thursday night.
We are.
Yes, and it's going to go out on Sunday.
Yes.
So we always have a glass of wine together.
We do. I've got my glass of wine for those of you watching on the YouTube Cycle Sunday podcast channel.
Yeah, so we have a glass of wine together, but I promised my wife, because we're trying to get a little bit sort of healthier, I promised my wife I wouldn't drink through the week, and she's going to know that I did this on a Thursday night.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm not meant to be drinking during the week either, and Tracy's actually out at the moment, so I shouldn't be drinking either. So we're in the same boat, mate.
Oh, great. Excellent. So at least we're in trouble together.
Exactly.
Something for the girls to talk about.
Exactly. And next time we're together, we'll just get lots of grief. So,
indeed.
Yes.
So it's more of a service we're offering, really.
Exactly. I mean, every week it's like, no, we're not going to drink during the week. And then that lasts till about 6:30 on Monday normally.
Indeed, yes.
So,
anyway, there we go. But no, Peter, absolutely fantastic. And how are you?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, very busy as always.
Yes.
And I'm hearing good things, and the bike shop's very busy, which is amazing news.
Yeah, it's absolutely rocking. It's really, really great. It's no complaints at all here.
I can't wait to come back once we get some components from Italy.
Yes, that would be really nice.
Yeah, we have no update on that as yet. I'm getting lots and lots of messages about that, so we will let you know as soon as we know. You guys will know.
Indeed.
But hopefully people have watched the video this evening, which I found a really interesting process fitting my tubeless Michelin tyres to my lovely Campagnolo wheels.
Yes.
And I think we kind of talked quite a lot about in that video about my reluctance, or not reluctance is probably the wrong word, my worries about going tubeless.
Yeah.
And one of them was...
Yeah, can I even say, sort of almost and respectfully, ignorance?
Oh, it was entirely based on ignorance.
Yes.
There's no, you don't need any respectfully.
Sure.
I just had, so there was a couple of major issues for me. The big issue was I'd heard, when you watch the coverage of things like the Tour, and obviously a lot of the teams ride tubeless tyres, and you hear about people having to glue tyres onto rims, and it just sounded really, really complicated. And one of my issues was, I had a couple. One was, if I'm out and about and I get a puncture, and I can't just take the tyre off, replace the tube, put a new tube in, and off I go, what am I going to do? And clearly the conversation we had around the higher tyre volume, lower tyre pressure, and then the sealant resin that's inside the tyres that should, on the most cases, stop that from happening. I shouldn't get a puncture because the resin will seal the problem first.
Yeah.
So that kind of started to put my mind at rest a little bit. But then my really big one was, well, how do I maintain or manage that myself at home? So let's say, for example, I went out and damaged a tyre so badly that the resin couldn't fix it, and I needed to put a new tyre on. Am I going to have to take the bike to the bike shop? Can I do that myself? And I assumed it wouldn't be something I could do myself because there would be tricks of the trade, and it would be quite difficult. I have to say, though, mate, with your expert guidance, of course, it was super easy.
Yeah, and you did a great job.
Was.
You did a great job. Yeah. And I think you mentioned something there that I think a lot of people get confused about. So you mentioned the Pro Peloton with gluing tyres to their rims.
Yes.
That is what we call a tubular tyre, not a tubeless tyre. And so
hold on. So we got tubes, tubeless, and tubular.
Well, let's make this even easier. You've got tubular and clincher.
Right.
Clincher is basically what is fitted to 99 to 99.8% of all road bikes that you will buy from a shop. And that is based on the automotive tyre technology, where effectively you have just a tyre that you click onto the rim, just like when you
So
go.
the
Yeah,
rim has a profile and a matching profile on the tire, and they click in together.
absolutely correct. So exactly the same
Yeah.
as when you go to a tyre specialist and get a tyre changed on your car. They basically just take the tyre off and fit the new tyre onto the rim. One clicks together, as you quite rightly said. They put air in it, and jobs are good, and then you go and drive down the road. And that's what we call a clincher system, because the tyre clinches to the inside of the rim. Okay?
Yeah.
Makes sense. And in a clincher style tyre and rim combination, you can either have a tubed version. So think
Yeah.
1960s Morris Minor, where you had an
Yeah.
inner tube that went inside a cross-ply tyre. And
Yeah.
then later on, you went to the same tyre system. It's a clincher-based tyre and rim, but now, instead of having an inner tube in there that holds the shape of the tyre, it now is tubeless, which means there's no inner tube, but it's still a clincher-based system. What
Hmm.
the Pro Peloton has used for many, many years is what's called a tubular tyre construction. And that
Hmm.
is where the rim profile, instead of it having almost a hook for the tyre to clinch to, it's basically almost like a half pipe. It's like a concave style rim. And the
Hmm.
tyre has got, looks like a London. If you looked at, if you know, when you see the sort of profile shots of a London tube train, and they basically just cut into it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you're looking down where the train goes, and it's just
Hmm.
a circular tube. That is what a tubular tire looks like. It's got the top of the tire, the sidewall of the tire, and the base of the tire basically sewn together like a tube. And that
Yeah.
then goes onto the concave rim, but is also glued into position and then
Right.
inflated. And that
Oh, okay.
is what we call a tubular tire. But they are literally for the preserve of the of the sort of pro peloton, really.
And what's the advantage of running those then? Is it just a rolling resistance thing, or
Weight,
is it
rolling
just because they've always done
resistance.
it? Or
Yeah, there's a combination of lots of things. Yeah, I'll be. Do you know what? I'll be absolutely honest with you. There'll be a lot more clever people out there who have ridden in pro teams, who have ridden tubular tires. One of the biggest things that you have on a tubular tire is a full cotton case, where tyres are rated in what's called TPI, which is threads per
hmm.
inch of the actual cotton case itself. And the higher
Hmm.
the TPI rating, basically the more supple the tyre. So a basic tyre that you go and pick up on an entry level bike might be a 30 to 60 TPI tyre. So there'll be 30 to 60 threads per inch within the tyre carcass.
Hmm. Hmm.
Tubulars run in the region of 320 TPI.
Wow.
So the tyres are so much more supple. But you now get clincher style tyres with tubular style 320 TPI casings. So the
Okay.
clincher tyre market, just like the automotive world, you know, when years ago would you ever expect a Michelin Cup 2 to run the sort of lap times that you see on traditional road and track cars at the
Mm.
speeds that they're getting? And that's because all of the technology from racing ultimately filters down into road and consumer levels of product. and the consumer massively benefits from all the hundreds of hours of research and development that the professional teams develop.
Mm,
Yeah, it's really
yeah,
interesting. Really interesting.
that kind of. You see, again, it's one of these things that tyres. Who knew?
Yeah.
Here's me riding my armored 23 millimeter tyres on my Venge, and oh my goodness me! So yeah, I am really looking forward to it now.
Mm.
But the process was really straightforward,
Yeah.
and we didn't cheat or anything. It was
It was
I think there was
live.
a few really nice tricks of the trade.
Mm.
Certainly in terms of when we put the resin in.
Yeah.
But it wasn't messy. It was dead easy, and I just can't wait to ride them. To be honest, I mean, let me guess. I can't wait to ride the bike full stop,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I can't wait to just feel what the difference is. And I think there's going to be a massive difference just going from my Venge running on 23s to 28s
Yeah.
anyway. And it was funny. I look back now on the decision to go 23. I just assumed that the narrower the tire, the lower the rolling resistance, the faster the tire would be,
Yeah.
and clearly that was me making decisions based on rubbish information, which is the story of my life, really.
But it's also you look, you're an intelligent person, Peter. So you also
Oh, mate, you're my friend.
yeah, but
Thanks.
you are but the other thing is you understand science. If
Mm,
nothing else, you understand science, you understand physics. So from a pure logical perspective, you go, well, the smaller the footprint, the less the rolling resistance, the smaller the tire, as in the lighter the tire, the less rotational inertia. So this has got to be
mm,
faster. But then you've got other aspects. If you were riding on the equivalent of a road in Mallorca, maybe that would be fine. But when you start then looking at UK roads, where our tarmac
mm,
is a lot coarser, it's a lot more open, and that allows the water to run through the channels of the tarmac itself, as opposed. I mean,
mm,
you must have driven a car in Mallorca, in France, and all that sort of thing.
mm.
Whenever there is any form of moisture on the road, it's almost like driving on ice, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Whereas if
yeah.
you drive or ride on a sodden road in the UK, you still have fundamentally a lot of grip because the open course tarmac. But the problem is that
Yeah.
riding in the UK on that open course tarmac, you actually need a slightly higher volume tyre run at a slightly lower pressure, so the squishy organic thing, doesn't get as fatigued on it. So,
Yeah.
t-
And actually, what the local authorities love doing down our way is top dressing.
yes,
So they just basically, because the cheap way of fixing the roads, and they just pour a load of molten tar on the road, and then chuck some chip-ins on it and roll over it with a steamroller, and that's it. And it's
no,
horrific.
but it's worse than that. They don't roll over it with a steamroller. They drop the chippings down and then expect you to compact it with your
Yeah.
car as you basically take half the paint off. When did that become a thing? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, mate. I don't know, but and I think that, I mean, certainly our way they do it quite a lot, and there are roads that when they do it, I won't go anywhere near them in my car or on my
No,
bike for a long
no,
time, because you get chipped windscreens
yes,
and knackered
yeah,
paintwork. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And on a hot day, when it gets really hot and the tar starts to melt,
yeah.
you get little tar splats all over the
Oh,
car.
don't
Nightmare.
get me going.
Anyway,
Don't get me going.
it's typical, isn't it? It's now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Putting a proper tarmac covering on a road is expensive
Yeah,
stuff, right? I think a friend of mine said a motorway, it's something like £1 million a mile, to do a
yeah, yeah,
motorway road.
yeah.
So yeah, no. The tire thing. I hope you're rotating them. By the way, have you been rotating
Oh,
them?
every other week.
Good,
Yeah.
excellent, good. Because that's another thing, I guess, for people if they have a summer
Hmm.
bike. And it's not. It's funny. My summer bike ends up on my turbo
Yes.
trainer. That won't be the case with the
Mm.
Bianchi. You'll be pleased to know it'll be on the wall behind
Yes.
me. But if you have a summer bike and you're not using it, and you have got tubeless tires, you do need to just spin the wheels
You do.
round every week or so, just to kind of keep that resin moving.
So the latex-based sealant, it takes ages to really go off, but it is just good practice to just keep them spinning. Look, there's pros and cons, but frankly, I'm fascinated for you to take that first couple of pedal strokes on the bike and just really feel how that thing feels. And I know there's not another person on the planet who's excited for that day to come as you.
No,
Yeah,
I know. Now then, moving on. I hear some rumours, my friend.
Yes.
That there's a major case of N+1 going on in the Bowker household. But the coolest thing, and firstly, I believe there's potentially new bike incoming for you, but it's actually being driven by Mrs. Bowker, by the lovely Rosie. She's up for it too. How on earth did you manage to do that? How did you get procurement to sign off a new bike?
Well, do you know what my advice is always? Is the easiest way of getting a new bike is to buy a better bike than the one that you're looking for your cycling significant other. And there's two reasons. Reason number one is that when they're on a better bike, they then completely understand what the difference is between a cheap bike and an expensive bike. So there is a real time value. But the other thing is, when you then turn around and say, but I only want to spend a fraction of what you've just spent on your new bike, darling, then the guilt sets in and it's instant sign off. So...
Oh, mate, that's nearly as good as bike pounds.
That is bike pounds, but it's bike pounds in reverse.
Yeah. This is, you just opened up a whole new world to all of our listeners. Basically, get your wife or your other half into cycling.
Get them a better bike than you are looking for yourself. So you got the appreciation of the quality, and then you spend less. So it's more of a service in a frivolous start. No, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness, what's the word when chivalry? So it's almost a token gesture of your appreciation for the finer person in your relationship.
Because I love you so much, darling, I need to buy a better bike. And they go, yes, you do.
Indeed, because I can really see the difference in my riding now I'm on a better bike. Oh, but you don't want to spend quite as much as you spent on me. Oh, what a wonderful gesture of consideration. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, what's happening right now is that there's a load of blokes out there going, I wonder if that will actually work. And then there'll be a ton of their partners and wives out there and vice versa going, don't even try it. That ain't going to work on me.
And if by any chance, see, one of the big challenges, I know lots of couples who watch my petrol ped videos together. But I think the challenge with a podcast is there may well be people right now listening to the podcast in the car, driving along with their significant other in the seat next to them, and they're sat there going, this is great, I might get a new bike, and their significant other's going, dream on. It's not happening.
It's not happening. No, but you're right. So I think, first of all, let's talk about the current Bowker fleet.
Yes. Well, because you have some proper tasty bikes.
So,
well, I would hope so. You own a bike shop.
But at the same token, if you own a bike shop, the one thing that it guarantees is you actually never get to ride your bike. Yes.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah.
So we've spoken before on a couple of our videos, and we've spoken on the podcast. Peter and me are cyclists. We're not roadies or mountain bikers. So Peter and I,
That's
yeah,
right, dude.
indeed, let's go and shred gnar. Or whatever the local youth say today. Anyway, so the top and bottom of it is that Peter and I are as happy spending time on the rough stuff as we are on the tarmac. It's just, let's get out on our bikes. So
Yep.
in the Bowker household, we run a mountain bike. So we've got a mountain bike which we love to take to places like Glentress and up in Scotland.
So this, what I love about this is for each of these types of bikes. That's two, one for you, one for
Yes,
Rosie.
yeah, and yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah, so you got a pair of
yes.
mountain bikes.
So we've got
Yeah, yeah,
mountain bikes. We've then got our gravel bikes, where we've got a pair
yes,
of Trek checkpoints, which we absolutely love, and that is just totally the Range Rover of our fleet. It's what we actually use about 60% of the time. And then
yeah,
we've got our lightweight sportif bikes, the ones that we go and do our big road miles on. And that's sort of like having your Ferrari 488 in the garage. It's your Sunday morning, go out for a blast on a nice day, and nothing can beat it. So
yeah.
we've got those bikes, and frankly, we don't really need any more than that. And for some people, they'll go, oh, flip, that's quite a lot of bikes to have. And then other people will go, oh no, I've got 16 bikes and you need 16. But well, frankly, you don't have time to ride these things. So you're almost collecting them for the sake of collecting them, which is not a problem with that at all. So, but the thing is that in the mountain bike world, we genuinely, and I've done a number of endurance races, and I love riding a mountain bike, and I love finishing a lap going, oh, I feel as though I really worked for that, and I got a really good lap time, and that was great. But I've changed in the fact that I actually just love going out and riding my bike with Rosie and with friends and family, as opposed to seeing what lap time I can do. And one of the things that I always have with Rosie is she's an incredibly strong rider. I mean, absolutely fantastic rider. But it's one of those things when we go riding together, there is a small disparity within the speed that I can get to the top of the hill and the speed of which Rosie can get to the top of the hill.
Yeah,
She's always faster.
than you. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to try and level that playing field up. So what we're actually going to do and what we're looking at is a pair of e-mountain bikes. We are going to go, we're going to the dark side. And we're doing this for two reasons. Number one is we want to ride together. We want to ride more together. And we're going to ride on varying terrains. So where we live is just absolutely lovely. It's got long sort of forest type trails and that sort of stuff. And I don't know about you, but riding a forest road at 8 to 12 kilometers an hour on a long dragging climb is a little boring. But to be able to do that same climb at 25 kilometers an hour, whilst expelling the same amount of, human power through the pedals, actually starts looking a lot more appealing now. So there's that reason. And the second reason is we've sold e-bikes for a lot of years now. Virtually since we opened, we started selling e-bikes. And I've ridden a lot of e-bikes and I've tested a lot of e-bikes, and I've got a lot of knowledge about e-bikes. One thing I've never done is owned an e-bike and lived with an e-bike for over a year, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And I think with e-bikes really taking off now, I mean, massively taking off, I think it's the right time for Rosie and I to start living with e-bikes so we can honestly say to people, I own this. I own this model with this engine, with this battery. this has been our good points, this has been our bad points, this has been our problems, this has been faultless. And to be able to say to a customer, yeah, we've been there, we put our own cash. And this is also really important for the listeners and the viewers to realize. Every single bike that you see Rosie and I riding, it's not a company bike. That's not gone through the books. Every single bit of kit that Rosie and I wear, use, or ride is owned by, Rosie's teaching salary and my salary at the shop. We buy everything.
Yeah.
So if you see us wearing something, it's
And I think,
because we wanted to put our own money into it.
yeah, and I, in a way, it's a bit like me with my car reviews. I can,
Yes.
if I have a car I can do a review. If I only have a car for 2 or 3 hours, I can do a review and I can give my opinion of the car.
Yeah.
But live with the car for a week or live with the car for a month, and that
Yeah.
opinion it matures. It gets
It does.
more detailed. It gets more genuine. And
Yes.
yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, we have to be careful with this one because we haven't done our e-bike video yet, which we have coming to Cycle Sunday very soon. So we
Yes.
won't kind of go off on one about the details of e-bikes.
No, quite right.
But I have to say, I mean, we touched on it last week with Joe about them, and I do find it a fascinating subject. And like many of the things we've talked about, there is a lot of misunderstanding and people making decisions or forming opinions on stuff without really understanding it. That's not great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's normally, to be honest, I'll tell you where my initial e-bike opinion came from when I was doing Von 2, and I'm kind of chewing the bar tape after having been on the bike for 7 hours, pulling a lung, and some bloke with Jesus creepers and a big bum crack showing and about 10 pints of beer too much sticking out his beer belly whizzes past you on an e-bike, and it's just soul destroying, absolutely soul destroying. Actually, going completely off piste here, but I like doing this every now and again. I don't know if I ever told you the story. When I bought my Venge, I'd not had it long. I think I'd probably had it about 4 months, I think. And I'd been out on a ride on my own, and I'd done 50 miles.
Yeah.
And 50 miles on your own is quite a long way. When you're with 2 or 3 people, it's because you can draft. It kind of makes it easier. But I was dead pleased with myself. Done 50 miles, and unfortunately, where I live, you kind of have to go over the downs to get back to my house, and there's some big bits of lump that you have to get over. And the big one near me is there's a hill called the Trundle. And I take lots of thumbnail pictures and stuff on the top of it because it's beautiful up there. Yeah. And there's a big drag that goes up the Trundle, and I'm probably 5 miles from home. I'm 45, 50 miles into this ride. I'm hanging properly. I'm minutes away from bonking really badly, and I'm in all my lycra. Me lovely me carbon soled shoes and me Oakley sunglasses, looking the works. And I'm absolutely hanging going up this climb. Yeah. And I hear this bike coming up behind me, and I'm like, and I'm sweating and I'm breathing really hard. And this old boy comes past, and I say old boy, he was definitely in his 60s, right? He was wearing a pair of sandals, a pair of jeans, and he was on a fixie, right?
Brilliant.
And he just flew past me, went, "Morning," with his paper in his hand. He'd obviously been to the paper, and I'm there in looking like something out of the Tour de France.
Brilliant.
And I just looked at that and thought, do you know what? It ain't what you ride, it's how you ride it. Yes. This old boy was like, he was, you see those, the kind of wiry framed cyclists that have been riding, every day since they were in the womb. And they're just an engine basically. And I got home and I was absolutely heartbroken. It destroyed me. It did.
Yeah. I think people like that, actually, God put those people on the earth to basically teach us humility. So I will never ever forget. I was doing a hike up to the top of flipping it. Where was it? Do you know, this is the problem with having wine in the middle of the week.
Oh, don't give me that. Rosie shouldn't be
Yeah,
drinking.
yeah, no, absolutely. So Scafell, flipping heck. So
Hmm.
so tallest mountain in England. So I was
Yeah.
walking up Scafell, and I was cracking on. I mean, proper cracking on. And I did basically from Wasswater to the top of Scafell in an hour and 34 minutes, which,
Hmm.
was all right. Okay. Yet, when I was going up there, this dude basically ran past wearing nothing more than basically plimsolls and a thong, must have
Yeah.
been in his 70s,
Yeah.
sinewy little thing, just breezed past me as if I was stood still. And I actually just thought at that point, do you know what? It doesn't matter how good you think you are. There's always somebody a damn sight better. So just get over yourself.
Yeah.
It's
Or buy an
great.
e-bike.
Go and buy an e-bike and go past them.
Yeah.
It's
Excellent.
lovely. It's lovely.
So the other thing you're saying about the e-bike though is that it's going to be a bit of a project bike.
Yes. Yes.
And I thought that was quite an interesting area because clearly we've done a project Bianchi, the
Mm,
Ultrex. I thought that is the ultimate project, but
mm.
it doesn't. To do a project, you don't have to go out and kind of spec everything perfectly from the start. You can kind of build up and add things in over time, as and when either you've got the money or
Yes.
as and when you sometimes it's because things need replacing,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's because new tech comes out or a
Yeah.
new thing comes out that you want to put on your bike.
Indeed. And I also, before I start going into this, I also need to ask you a little bit of permission.
Okay. Yes.
So the bike that I'm looking at purchasing
Yes.
is an e-bike called a Trek Rail.
Okay.
Okay. And it's in black and red.
Oh. Yeah.
And
Good color scheme. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
bit of a project bike.
Yes.
So my permission, thinking that there's quite a lot of cross sort of interesting things, I think this will make actually quite good content for Cycle Sunday, is
Yeah.
whether I could call the new Trek Rail Ruby.
Oh. Of course you can, mate.
So it would be Ruby Rail and
I
Ruby
love it.
Roadster,
Yeah. Yeah.
both black and red, and both a project.
I like it. I like your thinking, mate.
Do
It's very
you?
cool, actually.
Oh,
Ruby
okay.
Rail.
Ruby Rail.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. I was waiting for you to go, no. This is my brand.
No. No. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so Ruby Roadster has. And by the way, Cycle Sunday listeners, if you've tuned into
Mm.
Cycle Sunday and you don't go on to Petrolped,
Yeah, and you're like, what the hell's Ruby Roadster?
yeah. I implore you to go onto Peter's Petrolped YouTube channel and go and search out all of the Ruby Roadster project videos, because Ruby
There's a
Roadster
playlist.
is a play. Oh, there we go. Right. So
I've got a playlist. Yeah.
can we put links and what have you to that playlist
on the YouTube
on the
YouTube channel? I'll put a
Yeah,
link
yeah,
to the playlist.
cool.
Yeah.
Let's put that link, because that for me was actually where I really started to see Peter's videos. I mean, massively. I
Mhm.
got hooked on Ruby Roadster project, and Ruby Roadster is Peter's little mini John Cooper Works Roadster, little 2-seat convertible mini. They're really quite rare. They're absolutely excellent. And where the resonance was for me was when I worked for BMW Mini. I actually went to the original launch of that car at Bruntingthorpe, and I fell in love with that car instantly. It's just incredible. I just love that car. And to watch Peter's journey with Ruby Roadster of all of the bits and pieces that is fitted to it. And over the years, and how many years have you had it now, Peter?
Five and a half,
Five and a
five and a
half.
half years, I think.
And just
Yeah.
tell me and tell the lovely listeners what is actually left on Ruby Roadster that's pretty much original.
Fair chunk. I mean, I haven't done anything really to the bodywork. The engine block and all the internals are the same. I just got it's got a different map.
Yeah.
Clutch and diff are different.
Yeah.
Suspension components are different. Wheels are different.
Perfect. Right.
So I kind of just added bits.
Yeah. So stop there. So ultimately, the chassis, the engine, and the fuel tank, you started with the right foundation, and then you've just changed all the little bit of consumable components like suspension and brakes and wheels and little bits is like then little trinkety bits that you've done. So you've changed the lights and that sort of thing. But ultimately, the chassis, the engine, and the fuel tank is effectively the foundation that you started from. And that is basically Ruby Rail as a project. So the great thing about the Trek Rail is that you can get it in various different specs. You can get it in quite a basic spec that you can use as a project to start upgrading things as you start to really as things start to wear out. You can upgrade it to components that you really want, or you can get a higher spec model that has got pretty much everything that you kind of need, and then you've got a top of the range model that's got everything that you'd ever want but is spec'd by the company as opposed to personalized by you. Okay? But the thing that Trek will never ever compromise on is the quality of the chassis, so the frame, the quality of the engine, so the Bosch Performance CX engine, and the size of the fuel tank, which is the 625 watt hour battery. And we've decided to go for the particular model because what we want to do over time is as we start to get to know our e-bikes and we start to decide where we're riding and what we want to do with it, we're going to start changing the suspension, the wheels, the gears, the brakes, the handlebars, the stem, the saddle, all of the consumable parts that ultimately wear out. And we're going to really use that as a project basis. And I think that'll just be really good fun.
Yeah, and that sounds so cool because one of the things for me about bikes is because some people will be listening and go, why don't you just buy one with all the good bits on to start with, or buy a cheap one and then sell it and buy a better one. And first of all, you could do both of those things and that would be fine.
Correct.
But for me, one of the things I find about bikes, and it's definitely the case with Ruby Roadster, is I bought that car and I fell in love with it very quickly and ran the car for 3 years without doing anything at all.
Yeah.
No modifications. And in the car world, that's because of warranties and things like that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do any major modifications until the car was out of warranty.
Yeah.
And I'd never done any car modification before either. Because of YouTube, I think if I hadn't have been a YouTuber, I probably wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
And I'd have sold the car and got something else.
Yeah.
But then you kind of start looking into things and trying to put your own stamp on the car, and that's what I did, and I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the process of researching what we were going to do and doing it, and the results and looking at the results.
Yes,
and it becomes quite addictive, actually.
Yes,
and then the car really gets under your skin, and it gets to the point where it becomes such a part of you. I mean, I can't imagine a day where I would ever sell that car.
Sure.
She's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah.
But that for me is the same thing with bikes.
Yeah.
But what happens with bikes is, for me anyway, if you do something special on a bike, and my first road bike was a Giant Defy 2, and I did 5 stages of the Tour de France route on that bike, and I knew from the second I'd finished that ride, I'd never sell that bike. It was too special. I'd made too many memories. I'd gone to too many dark places
Yes.
whilst riding it.
Yes.
And then I did Paris-Roubaix on it, and it's definitely not going
Yeah.
anywhere. And then it's the same for the Venge. I did Mont Ventoux on the Venge and the Tour of Wessex, which is an excellent ride, by the way. That's a 3-day, 100-mile-a-day sportif, but you always come back to the same campsite. It's a phenomenally good ride. It's
Wow.
really good. But those bikes get it. I find it very difficult to imagine a scenario where I would want to sell a bike. And then I guess the other thing about bikes is if you keep them for 2 or 3 years, the resale value drops quite significantly. You're never really going to get your money back, and they don't really take up that much space. You may as well just keep it. But if you can change it, modify it, upgrade it, you can make it better. That as long as, like you said, the frame and the fundamentals of the bike are good quality.
Yes.
A different set of wheels, a different group set, a different saddle, different handlebars, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's just a really good fun thing to do. And I think you learn a lot about the bike and cycling in general when you do it.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And the emotional side, the emotive side of bike ownership. I still own a frame from the year 2000. So 21 years now. Which is one of the original White 19. So when John White, who was a designer for McLaren, started his own bike company, the White bike company, one of his first bikes was a highly magnesium enriched aluminium frame, exceptionally light, really stiff. Bike which was called the White 19, and I bought one of those original frames, and I still own that frame today. But do I own that frame because it's a White 19 and it's original and it's an ex-McLaren Formula One chassis designer and what have you? No, I own it because, and I still have it today, because that was the last bike that my dad bought for me. And all the components now have since worn away and gone, and it's up in my loft at the moment, and it's just the frame, and it's got all the patina on it, it's got all the chips, it's got all of the scratches and all the memories of all the rides that I've accumulated over the years. And my best friend, who I lost to cancer a number of years ago, a lot of the miles that I did on that bike was riding with Gareth, my friend that we lost to cancer. So that frame holds so much emotion that I will never sell it, but I'll also, at the same time, I'll never rebuild it and I'll never ride it again, but I don't need to. And one day when I've got the wall space, I will actually put it up on a wall.
It looked great in the bike shop.
Yeah, we're not a White dealer. No, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter at all. No, it's a talking point. But
I mean, I was gonna say, have you ever thought about rebuilding it? Because there's that whole scene, and I didn't even know it existed until a few years ago. I did. So I've done the proper Hell of the North, but I've also done the Hell of the North Cotswolds, which is a mountain bike ride. And there's two that I did. They do a short one, which is about 35 miles, and the long one's about 70 or 80 miles, I think. It's called the Honk Hell of the North Cotswolds. And I was at the start line for that, and a guy next to me was on this Marin mountain bike. That was, I remember them when they came out, and it was the most beautiful. It was like the equivalent of a concourse classic car, but a mountain bike. Everything was anodized, and it was just like it would just come out of the wrapper. It was beautiful, beautiful thing. And I was like, oh my God, that bike's amazing. He went, yeah, I've basically spent the last 2 years building it. And I'm like, wow. you know,
Mm.
why are you riding it? It's going to get muddy. It could get damaged. You know, are you for
Mm.
real? And he went, well, that's why I've just spent the last 2 years
Yeah.
building it, so I can
Yes.
ride it.
Yes.
You know, stunning
Yes.
thing it was.
No, it is, and it is. It's almost the problem with these bikes now. So that white frame is a 26-inch wheel. The suspension
Yeah.
fork has long since disintegrated. It was a nice suspension fork
Mm.
as fitted then, but you just can't get bits for 26-inch wheel bikes
Mm.
anymore. So
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
that would be built, it would be built almost a bit of a compromise. And I'd be building it for the sake of building
Yeah.
it as opposed to actually for the love of riding it. Because ultimately,
Yeah.
if you ride a 20-year-old 26-inch old school geometry mountain bike and ride it on
Mm.
2021 trails, it's actually not a
Mm.
nice place to be. I mean,
No, and it's probably going to break.
do you know what? It's not going to break. It's just not a nice place to be. It's like driving. And oh, flipping out, the comments are going to light up here. Richard, my brother, had
Go
an
on.
old Morris Minor Traveller.
Yeah.
It was called Doris and Morris, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things. Back in the 1960s, 70s, when they kind of were out, the speed of which those vehicles moved down the road was equivalent to the speed of every other car was traveling down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
thing was that Ferrari Daytonas, which were the fast car of the time, the hypercar of the time, was traveling down the motorway at the same speed of what a modern Ford Focus is driving at. So
Mm.
if you drive a Morris Minor in today's congestion and today's road speed, everybody goes on, oh, but the speed limits haven't changed. No, but actually the pace of how things move along has definitely changed.
Mm.
It will feel actually quite out of place. And it's exactly the same when you're mountain biking. What we
Yeah.
ride in terms of the gnarly trails that we're riding today is completely different to what we were riding 20 years ago, which was completely different to what we were riding
Yeah. Yeah.
another 10 years before that. So the
Yeah.
pace of
Yeah.
progression is crazy.
So what are your I guess the other thing about these project bikes is, um, I mean, you can upgrade things as and when budget dictates. So you
Yeah,
might have some spare cash at the end of the month, and you think, well,
yeah,
I can afford to buy, I don't know, a new set of pedals
yeah,
or
yeah,
a new saddle
yeah,
or some new accessories,
yeah,
bottle cages or something
yeah,
to make it look nice.
yes,
Or then you get a little bit more money and you can afford to buy a nice set of wheels. So
yeah,
you can upgrade when you've got the money.
mm,
So you can buy a cheaper bike,
yeah,
never compromising on the frame though.
yeah,
I think we've nailed that one home every time we talk to each
yeah,
other. But then the other thing, I guess, you may well get better at cycling.
yes,
So you think you can justify a more expensive set of wheels, or
mm,
you not justify them, but appreciate them more.
yes, yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it.
And then I guess the other things are, technology improves. So
Yeah,
I remember I had a Claude Butler mountain
mm,
bike. Um, can everyone keep the comments and laughter to a minimum, please? But I bought it and it had fixed forks, and then about 6 months later, I actually bent the forks. I did a drop off, and it didn't land very well, and bent them.
do you run out
So
of
I then went and
talent,
put
Peter?
some. Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much. No, I went over a massive drop off, and it just basically didn't like
yeah,
it at all. So I then went and bought some suspension
yeah,
forks. So it may well be that it's through damage, or
yes,
you start doing more stuff. So yeah, I can't wait to kind of watch that progression.
yes,
I certainly can't wait to see what you think about an e-bike. So
yes.
and
Well, I was thinking, why don't you
um,
get one? And then we can ride together.
is that that's after the gravel bike that I need to buy.
Oh yeah,
And then so yeah, because that yeah. Although Mrs. Petroped's getting an e-bike, so that there we go. You see, I've done it already.
Yes.
Buy Tracy an e-bike,
Yes.
and then that justifies me getting
Yeah,
one.
I thought we wanted to ride together, Tracy.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought that's what you wanted. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, seriously, it works.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm
I
not.
like your
I'm
thinking.
not saying that Peter is actually excited about about the Bianchi gravel bike, which is the Bianchi Arcadex.
Oh.
But through the course of the week, Peter did actually send me a photo that
Cute.
where he'd painted his shed in the colourway of his new future Arcadex. And I thought, seriously,
I'd
Peter.
just like to say, mate, that wasn't the shed. That was the back of the house.
Oh, sorry.
It's the boot room of the house. Yeah,
I thought it was a
but yeah,
very nice shed.
I know. I mean, I think we've become obsessed. So we started to paint all the woodwork and the frames of the windows and the doors in what basically looks like Celeste blue.
Brilliant. Absolutely.
I'm going to have a Bianchi house.
Oh, that's amazing. Are you going to have some tricolores around there as well? So at the
I might have to put a few on. Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Um,
Absolutely brilliant.
So we're coming towards the end of our time. So we'll keep you posted about your e-bikes,
Yes.
and we've got. What I would say is we're starting to get some people reaching out to us from either watching the Cycle Sunday episodes on YouTube or from listening to the podcast with really cool and exciting projects. And there is one around the subject of e-bikes.
Yes.
But we've got some really good stuff. So what we're really delighted about is the general response we're getting from this series. So if anyone's got any ideas, and we're keen to get some more guests on the podcast. It was great talking to Joe last week, but yeah, we'd love to get some more guests on the podcast. If anyone's got any suggestions for guests, or if you think you've got a good reason why you could come on the podcast and tell us about your cycling background, that would be really cool. Just to kind of have a banter. Obviously, you do need to have a glass of wine while you're talking on the podcast, because that's just the law.
On a school night.
But yeah, on a school night, I know. Yeah. So, so yeah, no, it's cool. So yeah, so the if you haven't done, I mean, I think most people watch the video first and then come to the podcast. But do pop over and make sure you have a look at me fitting my my tyres to my new wheels. If nothing else, the wheels are lovely. And we will keep you posted on the progress of the bike.
Indeed.
As soon as we know, you guys will know.
Yes.
But again, if you're listening, I'm just pulling some faces there.
and I'm looking coy.
It's like being kind of 5 or 6 again. And running up to Christmas, but you know what you're getting for Christmas.
Do you know?
But you don't know when Christmas is actually going to be.
Do you know what? I was going to say, it is like you know what you're getting for Christmas, but unfortunately, instead of Christmas being the 25th of December, it could be any time in the future.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Welcome to the bike industry in 2021.
I know, yeah. It's good and bad, I suppose. But
yeah. Good.
Cool. All right, mate. Well, I think we can close it down there, because you look knackered. You need to go and get some sleep, having worked in the bike shop all day. I've been filming all day, so I'm pretty shabby as well. But as always, a fascinating chat.
Always good.
I hope you guys listening have found it interesting. I always learn something when I talk to Paul, and I've now learned that there's 3 different types of tyres, which I didn't know before. And I can't wait to see your Ruby Rail bike.
Rail. Do you know what?
In fact, when I come up to pick up the Ultra XR4, which has a name, but I'm not going to let anybody know that yet. Would you have it by then, do you think?
I might do, but do you know what? I know that you're not going to be picking up the Bianchi in Ruby.
No.
And
No.
Not
if I want to get it home.
No, not at all. But I can't wait to see the Instagram photo of Ruby, because I've never met Ruby.
I know.
I want to drive Ruby.
Oh, you
I
can,
really,
mate.
really, really want to drive
can.
Ruby.
And all I'm going to say is I've got a very special modification coming up soon.
Oh, wow.
So once that's done, you definitely need to have a go.
Oh, yeah. No, I can't wait for
on
that.
a track, obviously.
Really? Yeah. No, I'd love to do that. And yeah, because the last time I drove a JCW Roadster was on a track.
There you go. She's quite different from a standard Roadster, so we'll make that happen. We'll make that happen. But most importantly, I can't wait to see the photo of Ruby Rail next to Ruby Roadster. That would be very cool. I think
that would make a lovely shot.
That would be very, very cool. I'll just need to drive a Roadster up to Edinburgh.
Or I drive a rail down to Somerset or to Chichester.
You drive your van. Bring your van down.
Yes.
And we can do the South Downs Way together.
Oh, that would be nice. Oh, we've got a plan. There's a plan.
100 miles. It is. You could do that in a day on an e-bike.
Yeah, or I'd do it in half a day in my van.
Yeah. Anyway, mate.
Yes.
I shall let you get some sleep, guys. Perfect. I hope you enjoyed that, and make sure you subscribe to the Cycle Sunday podcast on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or Google, make sure you kind of give us a follow and tune in every week.
And a 5-star rating.
And a 5-star rating, yeah.
5-star rating, yeah.
Two bike geeks talking bike stuff over a glass of wine.
Yes.
Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to sign off there. I've been Pete Greaves.
I've been Paul Bowker.
See you next week, guys.
Right, safe.